Ever since I was a child, I always preferred hanging out in the countryside rather than the busy city. And as I grew up, I started dreaming about owning a cabin.
And so I made a 3D rendering of my dream cabin. Now I'm gonna break the scene down and show you how I made this image.
So I started in an app called SketchUp, and this is the actual 3D model. It took me about 10 hours to make this. I know the design is pretty weird, but basically I took the shape of the typical A-frame cabin and branched it out so it would resemble some kind of cool looking origami. One of its sides supposed to be the living area, one's the kitchen, another one for the bedroom, and maybe some kind of activity area. And as you can see, it's not very much detailed. There's nothing inside even, because I thought I would just get a single shot of this from afar and not include stuff that won't be covered by the angle. And now we're ready to make a realistic render out of this bad boy. So now I tossed the 3D model to an app called 3ds Max, where I'm gonna put in more details and set it up for rendering. And here is the actual scene. There's the cabin, the mountain, the fence, the river. It is super messy. These right here are actually the trees, the rocks, and the plants that are in proxy mode. And for those who don't know what proxies are, it's kind of a simplified version of displaying objects in the scene, especially the heavy ones, so your computer won't find it hard to process stuff while you're still editing. There's a bit of furniture and some curtains, and these are the interior lights. And this is the sun. I pulled it way down and I set everything up that they're so foggy, like you're up in the mountain. Now here are the textures. So these textures are not what professionals would use. You know, these are really rough. I just made them up. I basically just downloaded some free images in the internet and edited them in Photoshop just to fit the scene. Now I rendered this in the plugin called Corona Renderer, and I tweaked some of the post settings a bit and launched the final render. And my PC was like smoking for an hour and a half to this. This is the final raw rendered image.
Now we're gonna toss this to Photoshop along with these render elements that will help us enhance it. This is called the wire color and the object ID that will help us select individual stuff in the scene. These are the individual lights, reflections, and refractions that we can tweak using overlays.
If you are getting anything out of this video, you can give back by hitting like. That's gonna help this content surface in the algorithm so it gets suggested to more people.
So now I placed all those elements on the top layer so I can grab any of them when needed while I work on the raw rendered image below. Note that the whole time I've been using them repeatedly, but I won't mention it so I don't sound like a broken record. So for the composition of the scene, I wanted the lines of the mountains to lead somewhere in the background while the cabin is just sitting there on the side. And the warm rustic color of the cabin is supposed to make it really pop out from the cool green environment. So what I'm doing here is just working around that idea while toning down stuff that are distracting. I brightened up the ground a bit along with the other mountain just to get a bit of detail to show. I toned down the rocks and the river and darkened the mountain behind so the cabin would really pop out. I didn't really get the color that I wanted for the cabin in the raw render, so I changed it. I brightened up the interior lights and added some reflections of trees that don't make sense but actually work. Some of the grass of the trees in the raw render look messy, so I enhanced them here. Now I painted the fog with a super awesome fog brush, but I was super careful not to overdo it so the image don't end up super blotchy. I thought it would be cool to see some canoe by the river, but I didn't have any cutouts, so I had to miserably cut this out myself from copyright-free images. And I also had to manually cut out this kid. You know, it took me hours to find him for some reason. It was really hard to find something that fits the scene. Now I was really about to stop at this stage, but after a few days of staring at it from time to time, I thought the image looked a bit too flat and desolate. And so I decided to add more stuff in the foreground. I added a lot of trees. In fact, I think I might have been adding too much that is starting to break the flow of the composition. And I don't know why, but I still kinda liked it. Another thing that I find odd about the composition is that there's quite some tension between the cabin and the river. Like, I don't even know which one the kid is looking at. But anyway, I still find the image to be pretty cool and upload worthy. Like, I literally spent days just to finish this. I can't just throw this in the trash, man. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section, and I'm gonna see you on this next video.